A fleet of warships, sleek and obsidian black, glided silently into Earth's orbit. The sheer magnitude of the vessels was enough to blot out the stars, casting ominous shadows across the surface of the planet below. From the command deck of the largest ship, General Zelkar of the Urog Empire gazed down at the blue and green world with contempt. His crimson eyes flickered as reports came in from his officers. "General, we have full deployment readiness. Our ground forces are prepared to land. Human defenses appear rudimentary at best," one of the tactical officers stated with a sharp salute. Zelkar turned slowly, his deep voice reverberating through the command chamber. "I expect nothing less. These humans are nothing more than primitives. They've barely crawled out of their atmosphere, and they dare defy the Urog Empire? This will be over quickly." To Zelkar, Earth was just another insignificant speck in the galaxy. The Urog Empire had conquered countless worlds, crushing civilizations far more advanced than the backward humans. Each planet had fallen, absorbed into the Empire's ever-expanding territory. This mission was no different. Earth would become another jewel in the Empire's crown, another resource to exploit. His soldiers, armed with energy rifles that could vaporize metal and wearing armor impervious to most conventional weaponry, would soon descend upon the planet's major cities, overwhelming Earth's defenses with their superior firepower and technology. But something gnawed at Zelkar, deep in the recesses of his mind. As much as he dismissed the humans, he couldn't shake the faint echoes of past warnings from ancient Urog warlords. The humans, they had said, were unpredictable. They fought with a savagery that defied logic. But those were stories told by old warriors who had long since passed. Myths from a time when the Urog Empire was still young. Myths, Zelkar muttered under his breath. He had no use for myths. His empire was built on the foundations of raw power and domination, not legends. "Begin the assault," Zelkar commanded. "Let's show these creatures what true power is." At once, the fleet surged into action. Across Earth, dark clouds of Urog dropships descended through the atmosphere like a meteor shower. They landed in the heart of major cities, New York, Tokyo, Berlin, Moscow, where shocked civilians stared in horror at the invaders from the sky. Alien troops, towering and armored in sleek black exosuits, disembarked from the ships and immediately engaged local military forces. Plasma blasts crackled through the air, effortlessly cutting through human vehicles, leaving smoldering craters where tanks once stood. In New York, General Zelkar watched through live holograms as his forces spread across the city like wildfire. Human soldiers fought back, but their bullets bounced harmlessly off Urog shields. In one swift motion, Urog energy cannons obliterated entire human battalions. The humans scrambled, desperate to defend their homeland, but it was clear they were outmatched. "Their resistance is pitiful," one of Zelkar's lieutenants remarked with a sneer. "They won't last an hour." "Let them struggle," Zelkar said, his voice cold. "It will make their defeat all the sweeter. Once the cities fall, the rest of the planet will surrender. We will crush their governments, take their resources, and claim Earth as our own." As his forces advanced, Zelkar couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. He was on the verge of completing another successful conquest, bringing glory to the Urog Empire and solidifying his place as one of the Empire's greatest generals. But beneath his confidence, subtle cracks were beginning to form. As Zelkar reviewed the holographic displays, he noticed something strange. In several cities, human resistance had intensified. Pockets of soldiers were regrouping, holding their ground against the Urog assault in unexpected ways. In Berlin, for example, a battalion of human soldiers had managed to force a retreat, using nothing more than improvised weapons and old-fashioned tactics. Zelkar frowned, his crimson eyes narrowing. "How are they doing this?" His tactical officer hesitated before responding. "It's unclear, General. They're using some kind of unconventional weaponry. We are still analyzing it." "Unconventional weaponry?" Zelkar's voice dripped with disdain. "They're throwing rocks compared to our technology. Get me more information. I want to know exactly what we're dealing with. As the battle raged on, Zelkar's confidence began to waver. The humans weren't surrendering as easily as he had anticipated. Their resistance, though fragmented, was fierce, and the reports of the strange fire-based weaponry, primitive, yet somehow effective, began to unsettle him. He had faced thousands of worlds, broken the will of entire species, and yet, here he stood uncertain. He stared out at the battlefield, watching as the sky lit up with explosions and fire. Humans, Zelkar muttered to himself. Perhaps they are more dangerous than I thought. He didn't know it yet, but the firestorm was coming, and the Urog Empire had no idea what they were about to face. The battlefield was awash with chaos as the Urog forces continued their relentless assault. Buildings crumbled under the barrage of plasma fire, and the acrid scent of smoke filled the air. Civilians cowered in the ruins of their once thriving cities, while human soldiers fought desperately to hold the line. General Zelkar observed from his command ship. Despite their advanced technology, the Urog soldiers were encountering resistance they hadn't anticipated. Human forces had regrouped, utilizing a combination of guerrilla tactics and something entirely unexpected, flamethrowers. Zelkar's crimson eyes narrowed as he watched the live feeds. His warriors, accustomed to high-energy weapons and impenetrable shields, found themselves at a disadvantage against this ancient, yet terrifyingly effective weaponry. What is the status of our troops? Zelkar demanded, his voice carrying a hint of irritation. He had no patience for inefficiency. General, the humans are deploying a new type of weapon, a device that propels flames. It's archaic by our standards, but it seems to bypass our shields, the tactical officer reported, his voice tense. Our soldiers are not accustomed to such heat-based attacks. We've sustained significant casualties in certain sectors. Zelkar's fist clenched as he processed the information. It was unthinkable that an empire as advanced as the Urog could be challenged by fire, one of the most primitive elements in the universe. And yet, here it was, disrupting his meticulously planned invasion. "Show me," Zelkar ordered. The holographic display shifted, revealing a scene from the front lines in New York. Urog soldiers, their armor gleaming under the city's dying lights, were advancing through a narrow street. Suddenly, a group of human soldiers emerged from the rubble, wielding flamethrowers. With a roar, they unleashed torrents of fire. The Urog warriors faltered, their shields flickering as the intense heat overwhelmed their systems. The once dominant alien troops scrambled, retreating as the firestorm engulfed them. Zelkar stared in disbelief. How could this be happening? His forces, trained and conditioned for interstellar warfare, were being pushed back by flames, a weapon from humanity's distant past. The sight of his soldiers in retreat, fleeing from a force they should have easily overcome, filled him with rage. "Send reinforcements," he barked. "Deploy the heavy artillery. I want those flamethrowers neutralized immediately." "General, with all due respect, our heavy artillery is proving less effective in urban environments." The officer hesitated. "The humans are using the terrain to their advantage. They strike quickly and then vanish, making it difficult to target them. Ilkars Jo Titan. He could not afford to lose ground. Not here. Not to these primitive creatures. Then flush them out. Burn everything if you have to. I want this planet subdued, no matter the cost." As the orders were relayed, Zelkar turned away from the hologram, his mind racing. The humans were proving to be more formidable than he had anticipated, and their use of fire, a weapon so basic, yet so destructive, had caught him off guard. He had underestimated them, a mistake he would not repeat. Meanwhile, on the ground, the human soldiers continued to fight with a determination born of desperation. Their flamethrowers, crude and simple compared to the Urog's advanced weaponry, were causing havoc among the alien ranks. In the narrow streets and alleys of the cities, where the Urog's heavy artillery struggled to penetrate, the flames spread like wildfire. One of the human commanders, a grizzled veteran named Captain Elias Ward, led the charge. Ward had fought in countless battles, but this was different. This was Earth, his home, and he would be damned if he let these alien invaders take it from him. "Keep pushing. Don't let up," Ward shouted, his voice hoarse but commanding. His soldiers responded with a renewed surge of energy, driving the Urog forces back with each blast of fire. The alien troops, unfamiliar with such relentless heat, were forced into a chaotic retreat. Ward knew they were outgunned and outnumbered, but they had one thing the Urog didn't: an intimate knowledge of their environment. They knew the streets, the alleys, the places where the flames would spread the quickest, and they used that knowledge to their advantage, turning the city into a fiery trap for the invaders. Ward felt a glimmer of hope. They could do this. They could hold the line. They could show these invaders that humanity was not so easily conquered. Above, in the command ship, Zelkar seethed. This was not how it was supposed to go. But as he watched the flames consuming his troops, he realized something chilling. He had underestimated the humans, and now the full fury of Earth's defenders was being unleashed. General Zelkar stood at the edge of the battlefield, scanning the burning ruins of the human city. It had been reduced to a smoldering wasteland, but despite the destruction, his forces were in disarray. The once dominant Urog warriors were scattered, their ranks decimated by an enemy they had so foolishly underestimated. The flames from the human flamethrowers continued to blaze uncontrollably, a constant reminder of his failure. His tactical officers had informed him of the situation on the ground. Many of his soldiers had fallen, their shields failing to protect them from the relentless heat. The humans were using the cover of their decimated cities to strike with precision, setting fire to everything in their path. Despite their crude weapons, their tactics were proving devastatingly effective. Zelkar's fury boiled within him, but it was tempered by the cold reality of the situation. His empire's assault on Earth, meant to be a swift and crushing blow, had turned into a drawn-out quagmire. He could no longer afford to rely on his troops alone. If he wanted to reclaim control, he would have to lead the charge himself. Strapping on his battle armor, Zelkar descended from his command ship to the surface, determined to confront the humans directly. His armor, crafted from a rare alloy known to withstand even the most intense energy weapons, gleamed menacingly in the fiery glow of the battlefield. His personal weapon, a massive energy blade crackling with power, was strapped across his back. If the humans wanted a fight, they would have it. As Zelkar emerged from the debris-laden sky, his towering figure cast a shadow over the ruins below. The human soldiers, momentarily startled by his arrival, quickly regrouped. Among them was Captain Elias Ward, standing defiantly amid the rubble. His flamethrower was still in hand, its nozzle glowing from overuse. Ward's eyes narrowed as he saw the alien general approach. This was the leader of the invaders, the one who had brought so much death and destruction to Earth. Without a word, Zelkar raised his energy blade and charged. The ground trembled beneath his feet as he advanced, the air around him crackling with energy. Ward and his men opened fire, unleashing streams of flame at the approaching alien, but Zelkar's armor held firm. The fire licked at the edges of his armor, but did not penetrate. He continued his advance, unfazed by the heat and chaos around him. Ward gritted his teeth. "Keep the pressure on," he barked to his men. The flames intensified, but Zelkar pushed through, slashing his energy blade in wide arcs. With each swing, human soldiers fell. Ward dodged one of Zelkar's strikes, the blade barely missing him as it sliced through a nearby wall. He could feel the heat from the energy weapon radiating off it. He knew he couldn't go head-to-head with the alien general in a direct fight. He was outmatched in both strength and technology, but he had one advantage: the environment. As Zelkar swung again, Ward ducked into a narrow alley, luring the alien general into the confines of the city's crumbling infrastructure. The tall, hulking figure of Zelkar followed him, his movements slightly hindered by the narrow space. The alien's arrogance made him predictable, and Ward knew he could use that to his advantage. Inside the tight alleyways, the battle shifted. Ward led Zelkar into a maze of debris and collapsed buildings, moving swiftly through the wreckage. He kept his distance, using the terrain to his advantage, forcing the alien to follow. Zelkar's frustration grew as he realized that the human captain was not engaging directly, but instead using hit-and-run tactics to weaken him. Ward paused at a dead-end corner, his back to a pile of charred rubble. He watched as Zelkar approached, his blade glowing with deadly energy. The alien general raised his weapon, his voice a low growl. "Your resistance is futile, human. You will fall like the rest." But Ward only smirked. "You're wrong." In an instant, Ward ignited his flamethrower and directed it at the ground beneath Zelkar's feet. The flames spread quickly, consuming the debris and igniting a fuel line buried beneath the rubble. There was a loud crack as the fuel line ruptured, sending a massive explosion ripping through the alley. The force of the blast threw Zelkar off his feet, his armor scorched and dented from the impact. Staggering to his feet, Zelkar felt a sharp pain in his side, where the blast had weakened his armor. His vision blurred, but his anger kept him going. He wouldn't be defeated by such a primitive species. Not after all this. Ward, however, was ready. As Zelkar stumbled forward, Ward struck. He directed another stream of fire at the damaged sections of the general's armor, focusing on the weakened joints. The fire burned hotter than ever, seeping through the cracks in the once impenetrable metal. Zelkar roared in agony as the flames engulfed him, his energy blade falling from his grasp. He could feel his strength fading as the fire consumed him. In his final moments, he looked up at the human captain, his enemy, and saw not fear, but a cold determination that matched his own. With a final, defiant glare, Zelkar fell to his knees, the fire consuming what remained of his once mighty form. Ward stood over him, his flamethrower hissing as the last of the fuel burned out. The alien general's reign of terror had come to an end. As the smoke cleared, Ward lowered his weapon, breathing heavily. The climactic battle concludes with General Zelkar's defeat at the hands of Captain Ward, symbolizing humanity's resilience and resourcefulness against a technologically superior foe.